Hey, what's going on, guys? Dottz Gaming here, and today I'm bringing you guys just a very quick video discussing some of my settings and configurations that I have for Lost Ark and things that I do recommend that people turn on when they start playing the game. Thankfully, Lost Ark's base default settings are actually very good, so my settings really aren't that much different than the default, but there's just a couple of little things that I wanted to show you guys where they were, as well as things that I do recommend turning on that I personally have found have made my adventures significantly easier. So just getting right into the settings here. So the first thing you're going to see is the video settings. These, I would definitely recommend using DirectX 11. Definitely is going to help your game run a lot better, using whatever resolution you have for your screen, as well as going in borderless mode. You can try to do Force 21:9 aspect ratio. I know that has some advantages for PvP, but simply because I'm just questing and I also don't like the black bars on my screen, I've just been staying with 16.9. Now, in terms of your screen effects, you can pretty much set this to whatever, profile and default that your computer can handle. Thankfully, Lost Ark's performance is actually very good, so I've been running mine on high and having pretty minimal problems. Although if you do notice a little bit of, freezing every now and then, I do recommend taking the auto optimization function and moving it slightly to the right to prioritize performance a little bit more, and I have personally found that that has helped. Now, in terms of some other post-processing effects, if you do notice you have a little bit of performance issues, you can start turning some of these off, or if you just don't like the effects that they have, as well as better depth of field and indirect shadows, things that you can mess with to get your game looking the way that you want it. These are just the basic audio settings. You can make this obviously as high or low as you want. You can also select the voice language here, so if you don't like the English VO, you can change that to be something else, as well as turn the sound in the background on or off, depending on if you like to hear the music and stuff when you're alt-tabbed. Also, there is a voice chat option here. You can turn this to push-to-talk so that, if you do accidentally join a voice channel, you're not automatically sending your voice through. So I do recommend, though, leaving auto-join voice chat off just to make sure that you are not joining any voice channels that you obviously don't want to join. These accessibility settings are also where you can find your cursor. So if you want to, you can change the cursor, or you can actually hold control down and scroll up and down on the mouse wheel. So you can change it, just like that. So if you see if I hold control, I can change the way that my cursor looks, or you can just go right into that setting here and then change it in the accessibility settings, as well as the cursor size and the colorblind filter if you want to. Now, these are your chat settings that you can mess with here, such as the window opacity and font size, and then any colors you want to take a look at. I also did check view chat time, just made it a little bit easier for me to see the times next to the chat. And then in terms of macro text, these are just some basic things that you can enter text that you could bind to keybinds and stuff that go to certain party chats, or area, guild, whatever, if you want to send messages really quickly. This is also something I messed with early, the notifications and requests. You can basically auto decline certain things, as well as turn on and off certain important connections. Like, I turned off the guild mates because it was really annoying seeing my guild mates constantly log in and out, so that is something that I did turn off. So getting into the most important settings of the video, and where most of the changes that I made here are here in the controls and display under gameplay. Again, there wasn't a lot that I made, but there were some key things here that I do recommend taking a look at. The first thing is going to be showing your player HP bar. This puts the HP bar, as you can see, right under my name and above my head, simply because I find it a lot easier that when I am playing the game, instead of constantly looking down at my health to see what my HP is at, it's much easier to just see it above my character's head while I'm playing, so I can focus on what I'm doing and not directing my eyes down. You could also turn off other HP bars if you do find them annoying, but personally I have them all on. Now, in terms of show combat and pet, I think this is a really important setting that people should change. You should change your battle effects display to include buff effects of party members. If you scroll down, then hit that setting, simply because Lost Ark, I'm sure you've noticed if you've played it all, the spell effects are pretty grandiose. They look really good. They look very cool. But if you're in a group of a bunch of people and everyone's got those giant effects, it can be very hard to keep track of what you're doing, where things are, where you're positioned. And in my opinion, it could just feel like way too much clutter on the screen. But the good thing is that if you use this setting, the ones and the spell effects that do show up are the ones for your foes, as well as, which of course you're going to want to see, as well as the AoE buffs for party members, so that if you do have an important buff or something that's coming from a party member, that's the one you'll see, and that's the one you'll know that, okay, I can stand in this and I'm safe, and you won't see the 97 other spell effects coming from your party members. So I personally found this to be the best middle ground for where I put my battle effects. I also do highly recommend turning on the combat skill ID and combat outline. Combat skill ID just makes it a little bit easier to determine effects that are coming from allies or foes. Personally, I find this very helpful, so I do turn it on. And then the combat outline is another one that I recommend. Again, with all of those spell effects, you know, even though we do change this to have foe effects and our effects and then AoE buffs and turn off a bunch from our allies, it's still a lot. There's still a lot of stuff going on the screen, and so sometimes it can be easy to get lost with your character between all the mobs and all the spell effects. So simply turning the combat outline on will help an absolute ton. You could also mess with some other UI effects down here. Personally, I didn't really do much. I just do the I just did the QWERTY keyboard, and then otherwise I pretty much left everything as it was. Now you also have the combat settings. This is going to be auto move. So at a default, when you auto move, your character just moves in a straight line unless you direct them somewhere. You can keep that if you want to, or simply make it so that when you turn on auto run, it follows where your cursor is, which I personally found a little bit easier. You could also turn off screen shake here if you do not like that, as well as check on skip dungeon cutscenes if that is something that you want to do. There's just some other settings down here that you can mess with if you want to, but I really did not change many of these. I also did not change any of the name tags, left them all pretty much on by default. Now, the only hotkey that I pretty much changed, I've left actually the default hotkeys for the most part. I really haven't changed much. The only thing that I have done is that I unchecked attack with right click. I personally prefer to attack with my left click. Just from other MMOs I've played in other games, like, you know, League, I prefer right click for my click to move and then left click for my basic attack. For me, it's just a little bit easier and a little bit more intuitive, but if you want to mess with that and change things, you can obviously feel free to go ahead. The only other thing that I did change under controls and display was to display time in AM PM format. I just preferred that over the 24-hour clock, but again, very small thing that you can mess with if you want to. But guys, those are just my Lost Ark settings. Very straightforward. I pretty much kept things default, but I did want to show you guys some key things that I did turn on that hopefully you can, you know, find useful for your adventures. Now guys, if you found this video helpful, I would appreciate if you left a like on it. If you have any questions regarding settings or need help with anything, please feel free to leave a comment below, and myself or others can probably get to you and give you some assistance. And guys, for more Lost Ark and other MMORPG content and first impressions videos, please feel free to hit that sub button as well as the bell to keep those notifications on. And if there's any other beginner guides or new things that you want to see about Lost Ark that you are having trouble with, feel free to leave them also in that comments, and maybe I can add it to my video queue. So guys, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for stopping by. As always, I'm Dottz Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next video.